Welcome to the AEN Stories channel.
I'm David, a 38-year-old bookstore owner in Portland, Oregon, where the autumn of 2025 cloaked the city in a ceaseless drizzle, the air heavy with the scent of wet cedar, damp asphalt, and the faint, comforting aroma of coffee wafting from corner cafes. For 14 years, 10 married, for dating my wife, Elise, and I crafted a life like a carefully curated bookshelf, each volume chosen with intention, its pages filled with love, dreams, and shared moments. Our Alberta Street bungalow, with its sagging porch, ivy-covered walls, and creaky hardwood floors, was a sanctuary of our passions. Her vibrant paintings leaned against every surface, their bold swirls of emerald and crimson catching the grey light my stacks of first editions and dog-eared paperbacks spilled across tables, their spines worn from years of love, and our record player spun Nick Drake or Bon Iver, its melancholy chords weaving through the air like a thread binding our story. Mornings were sacred rituals. It'd brew coffee, its bitter warmth filling our cluttered kitchen, the hiss of the espresso machine blending with the patter of rain, while Elise sketched at the table, her fingers smudged with charcoal, her laughter brightening the dim dawn like a rare sunbeam. Evenings, we'd walk our spaniel, Juniper, through Laurelhurst Park, her copper for catching raindrops as she darted through puddles, while we planned a future art shows for her, a second bookstore for me, a cabin in the Cascades for quiet retreats under starlit pines. Our life felt like a well-loved novel, its pages worn but cherished, its story unfolding with purpose and promise. But even the finest books can hide torn pages, their ink bleeding under neglect or hidden tears, and love, if learned, can unravel like a story left unfinished, its chapters rewritten by secrets that creep like mildew between the lines. Elise was a painter, her talent as vivid as the colors she wielded, her canvases bursting with abstract swirls of sapphire, ochre, and crimson, each stroke a window into her restless, untamed soul. Her green eyes sparkled with a hunger for beauty, a curiosity that saw art in the chaos of a storm, or the curve of a fern, and her auburn hair, often tied in a messy bun with a paint-splattered scrunchie, framed a face that could shift from pensive to radiant in a heartbeat. I'd watch her at art fairs, along Alberta Street, charming buyers with stories of her work's inspiration storms over the Columbia River, the vibrant chaos of a city market, the fleeting light of a Portland dusk, her voice alive with passion, her hands gesturing like brushes painting the air. She'd describe a canvas origin, perhaps a rainy afternoon sketching in Forest Park, her words pulling listeners into her world, making them see the beauty she saw. My days were spent at the last page, my bookstore on Alberta, where I'd arrange shelves with care, recommend novels to regulars who lingered by the poetry section, and host evening readings under strings of fairy lights. The air rich with the scent of old books, ink, and possibility. Our home was the binding of our story, her canvases propped against bookshelves, their colors clashing with the muted tones of my vintage hardcovers, my annotated copies of Borges, Atwood, and Neruda stacked precariously on her easel. Junipers, chew toys, and muddy paw prints scattered across the hardwood, a testament to her joyful chaos. We'd sit by our fireplace on rainy evenings, the crackle of cedar logs blending with the steady patter of rain on the roof, sipping Pinot Noir from Willamette Valley, dreaming of a life where her art graced international galleries and my bookstore became a literary hub for Portland's dreamers. I thought our narrative was strong, its pages tightly bound, its plot a steady arc toward a shared ending. But stories can shift, their chapters rewritten by choices you don't anticipate, their endings torn apart by truths you never saw coming. Our love story began 15 years ago at a Portland art walk, a vibrant Saturday where Alberta Street buzzed with artists, musicians, and food carts, the air thick with the scent of tamales and rain-soaked pavement. I'd set up a pop-up bookstall among the galleries, my table stacked with used novels and poetry collections, hoping to draw a few curious souls. Elise, then a grad student at Pacific Northwest College of Art, stopped to browse, her fingers tracing the worn spine of 100 years of solitude, her smile teasing as she asked if he'd read it in Spanish. I hadn't, but her wit and warmth pulled me in, and we talked until the streetlights flickered on, rain misting our jackets, the world fading to just us and the books between us. She bought the novel, scribbling her number on the receipt with a playful, "Call me if you ever read it in Spanish." I did call, and our first date was at Powell's Books, wandering the endless aisles, sharing passages from Rilke and Mary Oliver, our laughter echoing in the stacks as we lost track of time. We'd spend weekends exploring the Columbia Gorge, sketching waterfalls, or reading aloud under towering firs, Juniper bounding through ferns, her tail a blur of copper. Our early days were a whirlwind of discovery. Late-night talks at cozy cafes like Stumptown, where we'd debate art versus literature over steaming lattes, impromptu drives to Cannon Beach, where we'd walk the shore, Elise sketching driftwood, while I read her passages from Moby Dick, the waves crashing in rhythm with our voices the night we adopted Juniper, a rescue spaniel with soulful eyes, who tore through our backyard, her paws digging up tulips as we laughed until our sides ached. We married in a forest clearing near Multnomah Falls, Elise in a flowing dress shed painted with abstract ferns, promising to write our story together, page by page, her eyes locked on mine as mist rose from the falls, the air alive with the scent of moss and cedar. Those memories were my bookmark, a place I returned to when life felt heavy, a reminder of the story we were writing together. But bookmarks can slip, pages can tear, and those moments now felt like chapters from a book I thought I knew, their ink fading under the weight of doubt. By February, the first signs of trouble appeared, subtle as a smudge on a page, a faint tear you overlook until it widens. Elise started staying late at her studio, a rented loft in the Pearl District's industrial heart, citing a new series for an upcoming gallery show at the Portland Art Museum. She'd return after dark, her hair damp from rain, her sweater smelling of turpentine and something unfamiliar, sandalwood, perhaps, a scent that lingered like an uninvited guest. Her phone, once left carelessly on the counter, its cracked case a relic of her chaotic creativity, stayed in her bag now. Its screen flashing with notifications shed silence with a quick, practiced glance. "Just a curator with a question," she'd say, her voice light, but her green eyes darting away, focusing on the rain-slicked window or the floor. I trusted her. Our marriage, a story I believed was complete. Its plot predictable. Its ending assured. I saw trust as the spine of our book, holding every page in place, weathering the storms of daily life. But trust, if learned, can fray like an old binding, weakening under strain, its threads unraveling when you're too busy shelving new chapters to notice the pages slipping. March brought clearer signs, like ink bleeding through a page, staining the story beneath. Elise started wearing new scarves, silk, in deep blues and golds, their sheen catching the dim light of our bungalow, not her usual thrift store finds, frayed and paint spattered. Her stories about studio time grew vague, lacking the vivid details she once shared, a breakthrough with a new shade of ochre that captured the glow of a Portland sunset, a canvas ruined by a spilled coffee, her laughter turning the mishap into a story we'd retell over wine. She mentioned Julian, a sculptor in her studio collective, his name slipping into conversations like a misplaced karma, her tone too casual, her smile too quick. "Hay's got this wild idea for a kinetic piece," she'd say, her eyes bright, but the details stopped there, leaving gaps I couldn't fill. I was deep in a bookstore expansion plan, negotiating a lease for a second location in Selwood, my days consumed by spreadsheets, contractor calls, and meetings with investors. My nights spent sorting inventory under the last page's warm lights, the air heavy with the scent of old books and dust. I dismissed my unease as stress, my mind tangled in profit margins and shelving units, convincing myself it was her show's pressure, not a shift in our story. But doubt crept in, a smudge spreading across our narrative, its edges darkening with each unanswered question. April's signs were harder to ignore, like a tear ripping through a beloved page. Elise's late return stretched past midnight, her boots dry despite working through rain, her excuses thin as a worn dust jacket. Her phone buzzed constantly, a persistent hum disrupting our quiet evenings by the fireplace, the cedar logs crackling as Shed dismissed notifications with a flick of her finger, her smile forced, her eyes avoiding mine. I'd lie awake in our bed, her breathing soft beside me, the rain tapping our window like a metronome counting out my fears, wondering who was texting, who was inspiring her new paintings bold. Chaotic works in hues of violet and rust I didn't recognize, their strokes jagged where hers were once fluid. I started dissecting our life, my bookseller's mind analyzing our narrative for plot holes, searching for the moment the story shifted. Had she always been this distant, or was I just noticing now? My eyes finally opened to the cracks in our binding. I recalled moments of her restlessness last Christmas, when she sketched absently during dinner, her pencil scratching as she stared at the rain-slicked street, her turkey untouched, or January, when she spoke of feeling boxed in by her local shows, her voice heavy with a longing I didn't grasp. It suggested a weekend in Astoria, a chance to sketch the coast and breathe, but she brushed it off, saying she needed studio time, needed to focus. Had I missed her needs? Too absorbed in my expansion, my dream of a literary empire, my shelves of books that couldn't hold our story together. May brought a turning point, the signs still out, like a book falling from a shelf, its pages splaying open. Elise's sketchbook, once filled with vibrant studies of ferns and cityscapes, lay untouched on our kitchen counter, its pages blank, its cover gathering dust. Her studio bag, slung over a chair, held no paint tubes or brushes, just a silk scarf, a gallery flyer with Julian's name circled, and a single dried lavender sprig, its scent faint but unfamiliar. It walked Juniper alone through Laurelhurst Park, the paths slick with rain, the air thick with the smell of wet earth and pine. My mind racing as Juniper's paws splashed through puddles. Portland's bookstores and cafes, once our havens where we'd read poetry over lattes, felt hollow now, their warmth a cruel contrast to my growing isolation. I tried to reconnect over dinner salmon with dill, the kitchen warm with the scent of garlic and lemon, the table set with our hand-painted ceramic plates asking about her show, about Julian, hoping for a glimpse of her world. "It's fine," she said, her eyes fixed on her plate, her fork still, her voice flat as an unread page. Just experimenting with new techniques. Her words lacked the depth of our old talks, when Shed described a canvas evolution with the same passion she brought to her art. I pressed gently, asking about her latest piece, but she deflected, mentioning a new glaze vaguely, her tone a draft without revisions. Tension settled like damp air, heavy and unyielding, and I couldn't ask more, fear binding my tongue like a book sealed shut. What if I was wrong? My suspicions just paranoia born of stress. What if I was right, and the truth tore our story apart? June's dread deepened, a shadow spreading across our narrative. I saw Elise's car parked at a cafe on Division Street, its neon sign glowing through the rain. Not at her Pearl District studio as Shed claimed. I didn't go in, but sat in my car, heart pounding, the city's hum a distant roar through my fogged windows. Maybe it was a friend, a client, a harmless meeting, but suspicion grew, a tear ripping through our book's pages, its edges fraying. I started noticing details I'd ignored. The way Shed hum unfamiliar songs, not our usual Nick Drake or Bon Iver, the new sketch pad she kept hidden. Its pages closed when I entered the room, the way her laughter, once a melody that lit up our home, now felt reserved for moments I wasn't part of. One night, when she was in the shower, the waters unmasking my guilt, I checked her phone, hating myself for crossing that line, for violating the trust it held sacred. The texts were damning. "Can't stop thinking about you. Meet me at the usual spot." No name, but I knew Julian. Each message was a rip in our story, shredding the pages I'd thought were secure. I'd return the phone, my hands trembling, my heart pounding like a press printing a tragedy, and force a smile as she emerged, her hair damp, her towel wrapped tightly, her eyes avoiding mine as if she sensed the shift in our air. July brought the truth, raw and uneditable. I was home early, sorting a shipment of used novels at the dining table, Juniper snoring at my feet, her warmth a small comfort against the storm brewing inside me. Elise had said she was at her studio, working on a final piece for the show, but her sketchbook was untouched, her bag empty of paint supplies. On impulse, driven by a dread too heavy to carry, I checked her laptop, left open on the kitchen counter, her emails still logged in from the night before. A thread with Julian unfolded like a novel I didn't want to read, each message a chapter of betrayal. They'd been meeting for months, coffees at the Division Street Cafe, walks in Forest Park, late night talks at the studio, moments that started as art discussions but grew into something deeper, more intimate. Her words cut like a paper's edge. You see me in ways he'd forgotten, like him more than a painter, more than a wife. They'd met at a studio event in January. One he'd skipped for a late-night inventory, too consumed by my expansion plans to join her. What began as shared sketches and critiques turned into picnics by the Willamette River. A sketch head made of her under a cedar, her April confession of falling for him. Details haunted me. A rainy afternoon in March, sharing an umbrella by the river, a playlist head made, filled with indie songs she said felt like her solar moment in May when they kissed under a tree. The rain masking their shadows. I read until my vision blurred, my chest aching. Our life, our pals' dates, our forest wedding, Juniper's adoption feeling like a misprinted edition. Its pages flawed, its story unraveling. When Elise came home, I was still at the table, the laptop open, its screen a harsh glow in the dim kitchen, the rain pounding outside like a drumbeat to our ruin. I showed her the emails, my voice steady, but my heart fracturing. "What is this?" I asked, holding up the laptop, each word a weight I could barely carry. Her paintbrush fell from her hand, clattering on the hardwood, her face draining of color. "I didn't mean for it to go this far," she whispered, sinking into a chair, tears welling in her green eyes, her hands trembling as she clutched the table's edge. "It just happened." She sat there, Juniper nestled between us, oblivious to the storm tearing through our home, her tail thumping softly against the floor. Elise's voice cracked as she explained. Julian was more than a collaborator. They'd shared coffees, walks, moments she couldn't fully articulate, moments that felt like freedom, like a release from the confines of our routine. She said she loved me, her words breaking, but felt trapped, like our life was a canvas too small for her dreams of international galleries, of a name that echoed beyond Portland's art scene. "I didn't know how to tell you," she said, tears streaming down her cheeks, her hands twisting in her lap, her eyes pleading for understanding I couldn't give. "I never wanted to hurt you, David." But she had, and the hurt was a living thing, a tear ripping through our book, its pages scattering across the floor of our life. I asked questions I didn't want answers to. When, where, why, each one a wound I couldn't stop picking. She answered in fragments. A kiss in May under a cedar in Forest Park. The rain hiding their shadows, confessions over cold lattes at the cafe, late walks by the Willamette, talking about dreams she hadn't shared with me. She swore it was one kiss, a moment of weakness, but the emotional betrayal cut deeper, a page torn from our story, its ink bleeding into every memory we'd shared. I sat there, numb, as she cried, the room spinning like a storm-tossed book, the fireplace's glow casting shadows that danced like ghosts. The TV droned in the background, a documentary about Pacific Northwest forests, its images of lush green canopies, mocking the ruin of our own narrative. I wanted to hate her, to scream, to throw the laptop across the room and watch it shatter, but all I felt was emptiness, a blank page where our life had been. I thought of our story, our first date at Powell's, sharing poetry under the stores, warm lights, our wedding by Multnomah Falls, her painted dress catching the mist the night we brought Juniper home, her tiny paws digging up our backyard, our laughter filling the air. Had it all been a lie, a story that looked complete, but was hollow at its core? Had I been too focused on my bookstore, my expansion, my dream of a literary empire, to see her drifting, her pages turning towards someone else? I wanted to ask why she didn't talk to me, why she chose Julian over us, but the words wouldn't come, stuck in my throat like a lump of wet ink. Instead, I sat there, the rain pounding, the air thick with the weight of our unraveling. We tried to salvage our story, to mend the torn pages, to rewrite what had been lost. Therapy once a week with Dr. Patel, a therapist with a gentle voice and piercing questions, felt like sorting through a damaged manuscript, searching for the parts worth saving. She urged us to be honest, to lay bare our pain, to find the cracks in our narrative. Elise admitted she felt unseen, her identity as an artist buried under the routine of our marriage, her local shows feeling like a cage when she dreamed of Paris or New York. Julian saw her as a creator, not just a wife, offering a spark she felt we'd lost in our daily grind of coffee, walks, and quiet evenings. Her words were a blade, cutting through the illusions I'd held, revealing gaps I'd ignored. I confessed my distraction, to consumed by the bookstore expansion, by lease agreements and investor pitches, to notice her restlessness, her talk of bigger galleries, of needing space. It offered a cabin retreat in the Cascades, a chance to paint under pines, but Shed brushed it off, saying she needed to focus on her show. Had I been too blind, to caught in my shelves of books, to see her fading, her colours leaching under my neglect? We tried date nights, returning to Powell's to browse poetry, the aisles once our sanctuary, heavy with tension, the clink of coffee cups at Stumptown echoing our forced smiles. We made promises to communicate, to rebuild trust, to be honest about our needs. But every time I looked at her, I saw Julian's name, her words about feeling seen, about being more than a role. The trust we'd built was a torn page, its edges frayed to mend quickly. Therapy was a battlefield, each session a clash of emotions we weren't ready to navigate, like editors trying to save a manuscript ravaged by errors. Elise cried often, her guilt a heavy shadow, her face crumpling as she spoke of the pain she'd caused, the choices she regretted. I wanted to comfort her, to be the husband who'd held her after a rejected gallery pitch, who'd made her laugh with my terrible puns about book bindings, but I couldn't. My anger was quiet, but constant, a smudge spreading through our story, its ink staining every memory. I'd catch myself staring at her, searching for the woman I'd married, the one who'd laughed at my obsession with alphabetizing shelves, who'd sketched me reading under fairy lights, our worlds overlapping like a perfectly bound book. Was she still there, or had Julian taken her, claimed the part of her I thought was mine? Dr. Patel said I hadn't failed, that Elise made a choice to step outside our vows, but self-blame was a stubborn stain, its edges resistant to every attempt to erase it. I dissected our marriage, searching for the moment it went wrong. Was it the long hours I spent at the bookstore, sorting inventory until midnight? Was it the way I'd stopped planning spontaneous adventures, like our Cannon Beach trips? Or was it her, needing a spark I couldn't provide, a canvas broader than our life's frame? By September, we separated, the pages of our story torn to bind together. I moved to a small apartment in Selwood, its bare walls and concrete floors a stark contrast to our bungalow's warmth, the city's hum filtering through thin windows. The silence was deafening without Juniper's barks, Elise's humming, or the record player's soft chords, cooking for one pasta with store-bought sauce. Curry from a takeout container felt sterile, without her canvases cluttering the counter, her half-finished mugs of tea, or Juniper's toys underfoot, relics of our life, a Powell's receipt from our first date, her note tucked in a book saying you're my favorite story, cut fresh wounds, each one a reminder of our unraveling. I threw myself into the last page, arranging shelves with a precision I couldn't apply to my heart, recommending books to regulars with a forced smile, their kind eyes pitying me. I started running along the Willamette River, the water's grey flow a faint distraction from my thoughts, the rain soaking my jacket as I pounded the path, trying to outrun the pain. Portland's rain-soaked streets, its cozy cafes and bookstores, felt like ghosts of our story, their warmth a mockery of my isolation. Friends became my lifeline, their kindness a thread holding my pages together. Sarah, my store manager, invited me to book club nights at the last page, where we'd discuss novels over wine, her sharp humour pulling me out of my head. You're more than this heartbreak, she'd say. handing me a copy of The Night Circus, her eyes steady. My brother, Tom, called from Seattle, his voice warm, urging me to visit 4 hikes in the Olympics, promising burgers and beer to get me out of my funk. I couldn't face the pity in his tone, the way he'd look at me like a damaged book, its cover torn. My running group, a mix of locals I met through Sarah, jogged along the waterfront, their chatter about literature and life a bomb, their laughter a spark in my darkness. "Keep moving, David," said Rachel, a librarian in the group, tossing me a water bottle after a run, her smile kind but firm. Their support was a new chapter, small gestures tethering me to the world, but their sympathy stung, a reminder of the story I'd lost. In November, I saw Elise at an art fair on Alberta Street, her booth vibrant with new paintings bold, chaotic swirls of indigo and gold, their energy a stark contrast to the muted tones of her earlier work. She stood there, her auburn hair loose, her smile free, her laughter carrying over the crowd's hum, as if the weight of our marriage had lifted, as if she'd found a new canvas to paint her life. She was talking to a beer, her hands animated, her eyes alight with the passion I'd once loved. For a moment, I wanted to walk over, to ask if she was happy, if Julian was worth it, if she ever thought of our pals' dates, our forest vows, our dreams of a Cascades cabin. I didn't. I turned away, the hurt to raw, the fair's colors vivid scarves, handmade pottery, fresh-baked bread blurring into a haze, the busker's music fading as I walked to my car, my chest tight with grief. I drove back to Selwood, the rain smearing my windshield, Portland's bridges looming like chapters I couldn't revisit. Rebuilding is slow, like restocking a shelf, one book at a time, each title a step toward a new story. Running along the Willamette, each mile a small victory, grounds me, the river's steady flow, and the city's misty skyline anchoring me to the present. The last page keeps me sane, arranging shelves, hosting readings, recommending novels to strangers who become friends. I've started a poetry night, reading aloud under fairy lights, the words of Rilke and Oliver filling the air, their rhythms a reminder that stories endure. I joined a book club, their discussions of fiction, pulling me out of my head, their laughter a spark in my darkness. I carry a notebook now, jotting thoughts or sketches of the river, finding freedom in lines without structure, a new kind of creativity I hadn't explored. I went on a date at Stumptown with Rachel, the librarian from my running group, her dry wit and love of obscure novels making me laugh, a sound I hadn't heard in months. We talked about Portland's history, its quirky bookstores, and for an hour I felt like David again, not a broken bookseller, not the husband whose story fell apart. It wasn't love, but it was a page turning, a hint I could write again. Solo therapy with Dr. Patel is like editing a rough draft, digging through layers of pain, guilt, and anger to find the story beneath. Why did I feel responsible for Elise's choices? Who am I without her? It defined myself through our marriage, our shared pages, pals' dates, forest walks, Juniper's chaos a framework for my identity. Her betrayal wasn't just a loss of love, it was a loss of self, a book with its ending ripped out. I'm learning to forgive, not for her, but for me, to clear space for new words, new chapters. I'm starting to like the person I'm becoming, the lines I'm writing, the story taking shape. It's messy, like a first draft, but I'm getting there, one page, one step at a time. Healing isn't linear, a lesson I'm learning with every run, every book, every conversation. Some days, I relic a photo of us at Multnomah Falls, Juniper grinning, Elise's painted dress catching the mist brings pain as fresh as the day I read her emails. I'd run past her studio, hating myself for caring, or see a couple in a cafe, their laughter a stab of envy for the ease we'd lost. Other days, I laugh with Sarah over a book club joke, lose myself in a poetry readings cadence, or run with my group, debating the merits of dystopian novels, feeling whole. I run along the river, the air crisp, the water reflecting Portland's bridges, and feel hope, a belief I can rewrite my story, a life that's mine, not ours. I don't hate Elise, though the thought creeps in during dark hours. When my apartment's silence feels like a blank page, I hate her choice to rewrite our story, to find in Julian what she couldn't in me. In us, I hate that I didn't see it, believing our book was complete, its ending secure, but am letting go, forgiving for my sake, freeing myself to write new pages, to bind a new story. I'm learning to live with the scars, not as tears, but as proof I survived, a narrative still unfolding, a bookshelf slowly filling with new titles. Thank you for listening to my story to the end, a raw and real tale of love, betrayal, and the slow, messy work of rebuilding. It's a journey through pain and hope, a chapter of human struggle that I'm honored to share. If this story moved you, stirred your heart, or echoed your own experiences, please subscribe to the End Stories channel. There, you'll find a library of stories, tales of love, loss, betrayal, and redemption. Each one a reminder that we're all writing our own narratives, page by page, in the quiet corners of our hearts.